When you get within 3 months of the election, which is about next week or so, how stocks do has a really good track record for who might win. Now, here's what I mean by that. If the S&P 500 is higher,
What's up, guys? I'm back like I never left. In this video, we're going to be talking about the potential winner for the 2020 election. We're going to go over the key parameters that we need to check and what are some stocks that we can buy depending upon who gets elected. We're going to look at some sectors that could potentially thrive depending upon who gets in office. So I'm going to cover all this important information. I'm also doing a quick stock market recap. We're going to go over exactly the important companies that we need to be watching for elections. All this important information coming up. As you can see over here, we have the overall stock market trending to the downside significantly. Yesterday we recovered. Today we gave back the majority of the gains that we had, and we even went lower. And as you can see, the major companies that reported earnings yesterday, like Apple, Facebook, Amazon, just trending to the downside. Google was the one that we talked about. That was showing relative strength, and today it's up 3.15% to the upside. So the majority of the stock market, the different sectors just selling off to the downside, also mainly due to COVID cases rising and these major big tech companies, these multi-trillion companies like Amazon, Apple, really selling out to the downside, have a lot of pressure also to the downside. So that is one of the things that affected the stock market. And of course, the election is next week. We're going to find out who wins the elections. Unfortunately, you're not going to know it right away. It might take some time to figure out exactly who won the election. So we might expect a lot of volatility, choppiness in the stock market, depending upon how the polls and how the election numbers come out. So in this video, as I mentioned, we're going to cover exactly who could potentially be the winner of the 2020 election based on statistics and data of the stock market. So
despite a more modest return, stock performances during an election year have done well. Across the last 7 presidential election cycles, average gains for major indexes like the S&P 500 and Dow Jones showed positive returns in the 6 months before election day. The only exception being the 2008 financial crisis that rocked the stock market right ahead of November. Despite the concerns over market volatility following the market performance in September, experts reassure that volatility is just something to be expected at this time of year.
when you get within 3 months of the election, which is about next week or so, how stocks do has a really good track record for who might win. Now, here's what I mean by that. If the S&P 500 is higher, the incumbent party tends to win, and if the S&P 500 is lower, the incumbent party tends to lose. Think of it like this. Stocks have been right every single year since 1984, and they've been right 20 out of 23 times all the way back to the late 1920s. That comes out to an 87% winning percentage.
when we look at the 3 months chart for the S&P 500, I'm going to be using the SPY ETF. So the last 3 months was relatively flat, as you can see, but we finished on the red. In August, we broke out significantly, and then we sold off a little bit, and then we recovered it. Right now, we're going to finishing October in the red. So there's a lot of factors that affected the stock market this month. Of course, the stimulus, COVID cases rising, and unfortunately, these are providing a lot of selling pressure to the downside, and investors are not looking optimistic about the future. And not only that, the election uncertainty really has an impact on investor sentiment. So based on the historical data, if the stock market really sells off to the downside, it's not even down that much, but if it sells off, that's indication that, the leading party is probably going to be changed, so there's going to be a new leader, a new president that's going to be elected. If that is the case, if that happens, that we're not saying that's going to happen, but that might be happening because the majority of the time the stock market is correct. There's like 80% chance, above 80% chance that can possibly happen. But if that happens, this is going to be the stocks that we definitely need to be watching out for. So we have Apple stock, that's been selling off drastically to the downside. So if Joe Biden wins, the relationship between, China and USA is going to be solid. Now there's not going to be any kind of trade wars, any kind of tensions going back and forth. So expect, Apple stock to have really solid performance because, of course they do manufacturing over there, and there's a lot of Chinese people that buy Apple products around the world, and their majority of their products are manufactured in China. So that can definitely help Apple, and also the semiconductor companies. The main ones that we're going to be watching out for, of course, is AMD that reported earnings, that went down significantly for the past 2 days. Nvidia, Intel, Qualcomm, all these companies are definitely going to be benefiting. Any company that does some kind of manufacturing in China, or they export some products to China and things like that, they can definitely benefit. So we might expect the stock to perform better in Joe Biden administration. So now, if that's not the case, if Joe Biden loses, there's companies that might definitely benefit from that case too. So the major companies like the oil and gas companies, they're beaten down significantly, but as Joe Biden said, that he probably going to be more aggressive towards changing the entire energy consumption to renewable energy and environmental friendly. So that can, there are some companies that can benefit from that, but the energy sectors might could potentially get crushed if Joe Biden wins. But they might be hope if Donald Trump still stays in power. This sector has just been getting beaten down a lot, so they might have an opportunity to at least recover or not aggressively sell off as they used to. But if Joe Biden wins, I think they're going to get crushed even more. And also the other companies that we're going to be watching out for, like Workhorse, Tesla, all the EV companies can also benefit if Joe Biden gets elected, because he's more towards renewable energy, the environment, and they're going to be constructing a lot of infrastructure for electric vehicles. They're going to be able to charging stations across the U.S. and things like that, so they can also benefit. But the major downside, people are scared of, or the stock market is scared of, is just the policy, and that, the tax increases that could potentially have an impact on the stock market. But for next year, we have a significant amount of stimulus that could potentially be passed pretty soon, depending upon once we pass through all this uncertainty of the elections. Once they pass, $2 trillion into the economy, that can definitely boost a lot of these companies to the upside, and we might see a really great rally happening due to that stimulus package. Get ready for the stock market to be volatile for the next few weeks. We might see a significant sell-off in the companies that we like, and this is a great opportunity to buy into these companies and to watch out for these companies. Of course, unfortunately, if you're somebody that's holding a lot of companies that are speculative right now, it's really dangerous, because the trend is that investors are not really finding it attractive to invest in speculative companies. Instead, they're taking money out because there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of risk mitigation happening right now, instead of taking on risk at the current moment. So be super careful. And also, if you want to participate or create a watch list, these are definitely the companies that you need to be watching out for, depending upon if there's a shift in administration. So also the COVID cases are significantly rising, so also keep an eye out for Netflix stock, Zoom stock, and the other COVID stocks that can potentially have a significant rally to the upside, depending upon if you're going to have a lockdown in the future. There's some other countries in Europe that are getting locked down, like in Germany, like in France. They're getting back into lockdown mode, so that could potentially happen in the US, at least in some states, depending upon the number of cases increase, the number of people that are dying. So be super careful. So there's some other drug companies that we might see some spike on, depending upon if they announce a positive result for COVID-19 vaccine. So the first one, of course, is going to be Pfizer, J&J. We got Moderna is also the three companies that we're going to be watching out for, also depending upon what they say about their vaccine development within the next few months. I know Moderna is in a phase 3 trial for the COVID-19 vaccine, and if they say something super positive about that, or if they get approved for a vaccine, they can definitely spike up significantly to the upside. So that is going to be one of the important companies that we need to be watching out for. So be super careful, for the next few weeks. In November is going to be super rocky, and it's going to be super rocky, super choppy, and depending upon when we're going to know the election result. So that is one of the things that we need to keep in mind. So let me know in the comment section below if you believe the stock market can accurately predict the winner of the elections. And if you have any questions, any comments, make sure you drop it in the comment section below. If you want to sign up for Webull, join the Patreon page, or sign up for the Discord, you can check out the links in the description box below. But I catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Have a wonderful day.